Yep.
So this is our dead air spot. This is our dead air time right now.
Man, I'm just sick of talking about motorcycles.
All right, well, we'll just end this thing and be done with it. Oh, which I should mention that April 22nd, we're doing an open house here, now that I'm thinking about people being different places.
You're definite.
April 22nd, the Saturday. I've already called some people out of state who have been wanting to come down, and I said, come down April 22nd on Saturday, we're doing an open house.
Yeah.
So we're doing an open house at April 22nd here at the shop. So our first get-together since our live setup.
We are back.
After a long hiatus.
We did the live one at the...
at Attica.
Attica.
It was about a month ago. Oh, that was the 11th.
Oh, man.
So 3 weeks ago.
Well, thank you to everyone who came out. It was a packed house. Pretty awesome.
Packed house, lots of bikes outside. Lots of people standing outside. Yeah, we had a good time.
I did take a video of it, but it's like an hour long. And I just haven't had the time to
edit it.
For the same reason we haven't done this in a while. I've been having fun and doing stuff on the weekends, so.
We sold 2 of our replica PD 8.9 gallon PD tanks this week. We're selling them at wholesale. I'm curious to see what kind of feedback we get, which is why we're selling them for less than we're going to, because only we've mounted them. We've mounted all the tanks that we're selling, and we've got one on a bike, and we've gotten good response. They look great, and they fit well. You got to piddle with them, but you got to piddle with the new ones, the original ones too, a little. So
I heard you going through it up with the guy who bought it.
Yeah, and I sent something to a guy the other day, and I made a copy of it and sent myself a copy, so the next time somebody says they want one, I can just paste it and stick it on, because it took me about a half hour to go through all the nuances of the different scenarios and so on and so forth. So I'm kind of anxious to see, what the response is from people and how they like it, because it's taken a year to put that whole
it looks good
together. Yeah, I think so.
As long as we've talked about that before, as long as you're honest with people.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you want to do anything to your bike, you need to do modifications. Like this week or yesterday, I did the I don't know how you pronounce it, La Poderosa bag.
Oh, those
mounts.
bags, yeah.
Really clean looking bags. Really great product.
Mounts.
Yeah, they're mounts. The bags look good too. For the first soft bags that they sell, and they're really great. And then the Flat Racer luggage rack, which is a really great product.
Right.
But to get them to both work together, I had to do a bunch of shaving down, and they both mount in
same spot,
exact same spots.
Yeah.
Which there aren't a whole bunch of holes on the back of that bike for them to mount in different spots.
Well, we did a lot of stuff. We spent time, and Chuck went ahead and put an R80 GS solo seat and rack on this monoshock R100 RT that we're making into kind of an urban scrambler. We've been doing a lot of that stuff lately, where we're cutting and welded and putting stuff on that shouldn't have gone on here, like the blue bike with the orange seat in the other room. And today I did that Rose front end dual disc setup, got it all welded up and ready to go. And we've been doing a lot of fabrication, and that's always a lot of fun to do.
Which is, I posted a picture of you with your handlebars,
I saw it.
which you borrowed from, as a setup Murray built.
Yeah, we had for starting up the war motors.
And then you used it to pump up your brakes.
Yeah, I needed to have the master cylinder and the handle be higher than the levers, and so higher than the calipers, and so that worked out real well. Yeah.
And then once you got the caliper locked
once I get it where I want it, then we just tie back the handle and I tack it, take it off, and weld it, take it apart, and weld it together. So I did today. I've already taken the swing arm over the powder coater. I'm hoping that he'll have it on Tuesday for me, because we're starting to put that conversion back together. We got another conversion to build. The guy who bought that R100 from us on eBay, the gray one, brought us down an R50 US, and we're going to take the 70 horsepower motor and transmission out of the bike he bought from us and put it in the bike he brought us.
Yeah, that's exciting.
And then we'll have another R50 engine and transmission to sell. Yeah, conversions are fun. All the custom stuff is fun.
He's gonna leave the U.S. front end on there?
Yes.
Which, if you don't know,
that's what he wants.
A U.S. front end is basically a /5 front end.
It's the same as a /5 with a slightly different fender brace and a 19-inch wheel instead of an 18. A couple of minor differences, but the fork tubes and the sliders and the internals are all, top triple clamps are all the same.
It was the test model for BMW's telescopic.
Well, they knew that they were coming out with the model in '70. And so they started tapering off on what they were doing in '67 and '68. So instead of making more Earl's front ends, they started offering the bike not only with that front end on it, the telescopic front end, but also some of the frames that didn't have any sidecar mounts on them. Because they said, well, you put a telescopic front end on, you're not going to use the sidecar on it. That's what the Earl's front end was so good, and why it had 2 adjustments to change the trail, put a sidecar on. So they knew, as they do a lot, they knew that they were not going to make any more of them, so they decided just to start making the stuff that was coming up and just use what they had left, their Earls, and fill the rest of it in with telescopic stuff. So, yeah, I'm not a real fan of it, but, you know, it works fine on the road. I don't think it works as well as the Earls, but...
Really? You don't think it...
Well, the Earl's front end doesn't doesn't destabilize the bike as much. The telescopic front end goes up and down. That one has 8 inches of travel. An Earl's front end, you got a swing arm in the back and a swing arm in the front. It goes fore and aft, so when you brake hard, the bike lowers together. It doesn't do this, which is what happens on a swing arm front. I mean, on a telescopic front end, the front dives and the back comes up. And you're doing this, but on these bikes, if you push on the front end, it goes fore and aft. It doesn't go up and down. So, and so you're replicating what's happened at the back. Both wheels are the same size. They're both 18s, so the geometry is the same. So if you grab a whole lot of brakes on this bike, instead of the bike doing this, it just squats down. It's much more stable, which is why, you know, the last thing you want on the sidecar is to have the front end do this and the sidecar try to follow it when you're driving down the road. With the Earls, just goes fore and aft. The sidecar stays right where it needs to be, and plus they set them up to change the front end. They have a plug on them to plug the electrics in. They have the mounts on there to put for the sockets. They got everything on there. So I'm just not a fan of the other one. I just don't like the way it looks, if nothing else. I just like the Earls. I think the Earls is a more interesting, better front end.
It's pretty.
But, you know.
Yeah.
Well, and the disc brakes make a big difference. We do a handlebar mounted master, and the thing becomes one finger braking. And the conversion that we're putting it on is a 750, which is a 50 horsepower bike. The 69S was a 42, so not a great difference, but enough to make a difference.
So what are we doing with the brakes on that 70 horsepower bike?
It's got to be Earl's front end that I built.
Oh, okay,
It's Earl's front end. We built the wheel. Buchanan's drills us a rim and makes us the spokes. We buy a hub, R80GS ST hub for BMW. We re-drill it. So the holes are exactly the same as a 12-inch rotor from the mid-90s GSXR. And the BMW rotors are 10-inch. We have a little more trouble getting the calipers away from the spokes with 12 inches. We get that extra inch away from it, so it's a lot easier to set it up. And they're floating rotors. The BMW stock ones are not. The floaters work a lot better anyway. So that whole combo, and then we make stainless brake lines. We use a 16-millimeter master cylinder on the top. We take the axle and we make some spacers. We put the wheel in the center, space it out, and then we have some 5-hole spacers that we use to space out the rotors until we get them right in the middle of the calipers. We have some laser cut tombstones that we use to screw into the calipers and weld onto the frame, the swing arm. We've been doing this for probably 20 years, so we got all this stuff.
Didn't they do a whole article about it in some magazine?
They did. Scotty's Garage Guy did an article a couple years ago in one of the vintage magazines or something. We got a little bit of work out of it.
Yeah, it was the first photos I ever took for you. So that's 5 years ago.
Oh, really?
Well, how long? October 2017. So
Okay.
it was probably exactly 5 years ago.
Right. You know, we've just got...
I wish I could find...
I have a copy of it. You want a copy? I have a copy in the other room.
It might be cool to scan that and then put it on our website.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've just started to hook up with the university here. University of Georgia's got a kind of an industrial division or something that's doing 3D printing and all this stuff, and they sent us a note.
And they're 3D printing...
And manufacturing.
But it's not
metal or plastic.
Yeah,
or
that's
whatever.
it's heavy metal.
Right, and so they contacted us, and so we gave them one of the small fairings that came on the R80GS and the early R100GSs, and they're going to make it out of aluminum with the louvers in it and everything. We're going to make us one. They're also going to make me the 5-hole spacers that I use for the Earl's front end, but they're going to make them out of aluminum for me because the steel ones I use I have to coat or they rust.
Yeah.
So they're making them, and then I talked to them about some other stuff, and so they're trying to give the students over there some real world experience about dealing with businesses and the things, the pros and cons of running into types of things. And meanwhile, they'll be doing this for us at a lesser price. We're helping them, they're helping us out. So that's kind of exciting because there's a lot of things we want to do, and there aren't a lot of shops who do short production runs. And these guys are willing to do small amounts,
that's
which we
pretty
can't
cool.
get anybody to do. So
Because I think a big problem with 3D printing is, the amateur ones you get at your house. They print on like a plastic type thing. I mean, it's heavy duty plastic, but not heavy duty enough for the vibrations of a motorcycle. I think James Van, when he was at Bedlam, tried to 3D print /5 headlight shells, and he said they failed.
right. Well, you might, if you could use some kind of carbon fiber stuff, you probably could make it. But I don't know how many
Yeah.
people want a plastic headlight shell. We've talked about it, and I'm going to talk to the university about it. See if it's something they make that I can make.
But that's using heavier materials is very interesting.
Right. So I'm kind of, so that's kind of a whole new thing. The guy was over here 3 times this week, looking at stuff and grabbing stuff and talking, and
Yeah.
so that's kind of interesting. So we've got a lot of ideas of things we'd like to be able to manufacture that change things or make things better or do stuff that you can't normally do easily that we want, and then we could just sell them to people after they see what we do with them. And it's like the replica tanks. We made the tanks and people want them. You can't buy them anymore. And,
Yeah.
they're heavy material. They're well made. So
Yeah.
something we needed, something that we saw a desire for other people for. So so this is going to open up a whole new avenue for us, which should be kind of interesting.
And I'm working on making hats.
Oh yeah, right. These 3D printing hats with people's heads inside.
Yeah, well, we'll
slip
see.
your head inside. And,
In case you didn't notice by me wearing a hat every single day you've ever seen me, I'm a hat guy.
and I'm
Yeah.
not. I don't wear one every single day. I have to remember to take it off when I get in the bathtub at night.
But all the blink hats, like the hats you would, put a logo on or something, are just junk. I've never worn a blink hat I was happy with. It's just so much lower quality than
This Folly Beach hat I buy them every year or so, and they last me a long time. I've got all the rest of them. They're different tag bags.
See, that's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
I want a hat that will last you
This
forever.
is pretty heavy. It's well made. It's easy to adjust. Yeah.
But the company that we buy all our T-shirts from,
Right.
which is by far and away the best T-shirt I've ever
Right,
printed
which gets
on.
us to a discussion we had earlier this week.
Let me finish
Okay.
the hat thing.
Go ahead.
So they introduced a lot of new hats. So I bought 2. And we're gonna test it out. So we might be getting Boxerworks and Gold Stroke Motor baseball hats.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So what we talked about a little this week were hooded sweatshirts.
Yep. And people ask all the time.
Right, and so hooded sweatshirts are expensive.
They are.
We don't know how much people who want to support the shop would be willing to pay for a hooded sweatshirt. We have the regular ones, and then you say we get the super heavy duty, the really warm ones. So if we were to offer these, are people willing to pay $100 for one? Because that's what we may end up having to sell them for.
I would say, the problem is there's such an investment to meet the minimum.
Understand?
Yeah.
But we'd have to take orders, and
I think 65 is the lowest. Lowest we could go.
Well, I mean, you can buy T-shirts for over $40.
Yeah.
So, I would think that if you wanted a hooded sweatshirt, we have maybe a half a dozen of them floating around the shop here. And everybody wears them all the time. They're all worn out already. The logos are off of them. And
I would probably only do super heavy duty ones.
It makes sense to me.
Because they're not that more expensive. But in order to break even selling them. We'd have to still price
So,
them for $60.
Right.
If you pay $60 for a hoodie, I want it to be like the best hoodie.
We want, if any of you guys who are watching this are interested, get in touch with us and tell us, hey, I want a hooded sweatshirt. And then we get a good response. We can spend the legwork to figure out what it will actually cost us, and we can run it by you, and we can see if everybody's interested. If they are, we'll make some.
Yeah.
We just haven't made them because they're for us to, when we do t-shirts, we do 110. Shit, if we did 110 sweatshirts, we'd be buying a house instead.
It'd be the price of a motorcycle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But we're willing to do it if everybody wants to chip in a little bit of money and buy something that's going to cost us a little bit more money.
Yeah. And we always sell our t-shirts.
I'll give away more than I sell.
My goal with the t-shirts was always to break even once we factor in how many we give away. They're a promotional thing.
Right.
Same with t-shirts. The reason we haven't printed a t-shirt in a while is because I made an awesome t-shirt that Nathan doesn't want to print on because it's a white t-shirt. I'm probably going to post a picture of it, right?
Sell it. I mean, I don't think anybody could wear one in the shop because it would be black in a week. But people want to just wear them to ride, sell them. I don't have a problem with it.
I'm going to put it up on the
we don't
screen.
Get a trademark infringement on it. But we didn't with the Marty Feldman. We did some homework on Marty Feldman shirts, which is another thing I think we need to do again. You don't like them, but we get
I can't do anything with them. I can't print on it because I didn't make the logo.
Well, the people who have the logo are here in town.
Yeah, but I can't print on the t-shirts I want to print on because they don't carry them, and we have to buy because they made the. There's a whole thing. I've been saying no to this t-shirt for years. Plus, I don't like it. I'm going to be honest.
We got so many. I went to an antique mall in town with Leslie last year. A woman came, oh, Marty Feldman, I love that Young Frankenstein. Oh, this, that.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to be a motorcycle person to recognize who it is, and it's always a good conversation starter. So, what else do you need?
I'm gonna do a. I'm trying to think of it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Santa
do
Claus with his ass hanging out, and then it'll be.
I'm gonna do a Rolls in the Hay T-shirt, and it'll just be her chest on the T-shirt. Right. Yeah. Right. Which I had a huge crush. I mean.
Cloris Leachman and.
Not on Cloris Leachman. Yeah.
Right.
Being 12 years old and seeing that Rolls in the Hay scene was
it's such a great movie. I know the thing verbatim. It's one of my most favorite movies ever and always will be. So we've got so many projects going on in the shop. You've been working on one for 2 months now.
Yeah.
And Chuck had to get off of one and start on something else because we were waiting for the heads to come back from next door, which they did today. And then another bike we started on, the guy's decided he's not going to ride anymore. It's an interesting cafe bike, and we got to finish it up for him and get it sold.
What bike is that?
It's this guy Kyle's bike. It's got a gray tank, with little black spots on it. It's in the other room, and it's got a big LED headlight on it. It's got a little bump seat and an R90S fairing. Something we started on 5 or 6 months ago, and then the guy called us and said, hey, I just got married and I bought a house. I don't have any money to finish the bike right now. Let's roll it out. So we're going to finish that for him. And then, of course, you've got that maroon RT with 2,500 miles on it to get started on next week at some point.
Yeah, which I met him today.
Yeah, nice the guy drove up from Florida today to meet us who bought the bike.
It's a giant perk of being in an airhead-only shop. We were talking about side stands and how much they suck.
Right.
But then, right next to us was a bike with a brown side stand, so... why don't you sit on it and see if it... of course, it's way better. I mean, the brown is...
No question.
And that's an under 3,000 miles RT.
Right.
But I don't think there's any purist who's going to be like, ugh,
it's a bolt-on. You put a brown... You can take it off in 2 seconds.
I think anyone who is a purist is probably a brown...
We modified the one that's on this cafe over here to work, but I'm going to spend some time in the next couple of weeks try to come up with a relatively decent side stand for the Paralever bikes. And then I'm going to...
Like the brown?
Something that works, that's easy to deploy, that you can see, that doesn't automatically fold up.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to send it out to Paul in Arizona and have him make me one and see what's involved. And then if they work, we're just going to start selling them because we were selling some from a company in Germany, and they were much better than stock, but still needed modification to mount, and they're out of them. Plus, we have to buy them out of Germany, and you know
They were so expensive.
well, yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, if you take a brown side stand and want to put it on an R100 GS, we mill a bracket, which we sell for $115. We only make $15 on it. Then you buy a brown side stand for $170. Cut the mount off, mount our bracket on the bike, take the side stand, hold it on there, figure out where you want to tack it, take it off, weld it, put it back on, make sure it's where you want it, take it off and get it powder coat or whatever. You have 3 hours in that plus the 115 and 170, so it's more money than
Fair.
paying $300, $400 for the side stand. But the side stand still needs modification. The mount does to fit on there too. So, you know, it was a couple that our GS that left, Dan Vernon's GS that left, that went back to Tennessee. I mean, went back to North Carolina this week. He had that real nice multi-piece stainless stand on there. That was nice, easy to deploy, and worked real well and was adjustable. So I'm trying to come up with something. You know, there's a real need for that, and I'd like to have some for the bikes here too. So I'm going to try to come up with something for that. See what we can do.